Welcome back to another episode of Spotlight with the Schumans, and today we have Coach Woodward. Thank you for being on the show,
Thanks for having me.
and I'm gonna ask you a few questions.
Sure.
So, what made you start coaching?
Well, I think everybody, I was just actually answering this question earlier today, but I think everybody gets into coaching because, one, they have a passion for the sport, and then two, it's the influence that other coaches has had on you. Like I had a really good high school football coach named Alan Lowe, and he was a big influence on me getting into coaching, but he was also a big influence on my life. He was a really good Christian man. He could get his point accomplished, and he could motivate me without using harsh words or profanity. And then, of course, I worked for Danny Britt, who was also another one of my high school coaches when I was at Benedictine. So it's just, a love for the sport, and secondly, people in your life have had a big influence, and you want to return that favor with today's kids.
Okay, so what are some characteristics that you look in some players that come to your school?
Yeah, I think obviously, I think right now we're getting good players at our school, but one of the things that set kids apart, I think, is attitude and effort, and being mentally tough. We had a great senior class this year. They're able to get to the state championship, but even before we got to the state championship, the first round of the playoffs, our offensive lineman Tyson Gross had to chase a defensive back from Peach County all the way across the field to make the tackle on like the 5-yard line for us to even go into overtime. Like if he doesn't make that tackle and doesn't have that relentless effort to not give up, we don't go to the second round of the playoffs. So it's very important to me that you're mentally tough and you have that attitude that you're not going to give up no matter the circumstances.
Okay, so speaking of attitude, would you rather have a person with bad attitude and skill, or a good attitude and willing to learn and with like no skill but is willing to learn?
Yeah, I think you can always work with the proper attitude. And if you look at when our coaches get together, we talk about what are our main problems, and then if you look at our main problems, a lot of them can be solved with the proper attitude and the proper work ethic. So I'd rather work with kids that want the most out of our school, that want the most out of Savannah Christian or any school they're going to, and they're willing to give their all and to learn, as opposed to someone that's super talented. Because talent is only going to get you so far, right? You got to be willing to learn, willing to not give up, and so I'd love to work with those guys. And heck, that's a lot of our kids here at Savannah Christian. Of course, we have some great players, but all the great players that we have here, they have great attitudes as well. And so it's just a pleasure to coach guys like that.
Okay, so how hard do you have to work for your players to work to get to the state championship?
Oh man, so you got to work really hard, and I think you work hard, of course. Just give you an idea, we had 83 practices until the state championship. 83 practices, and that's not including the 24 summer workouts, the 10 spring practices. We had about 25 speed and agility morning workouts from 7 to 7:45 a.m. So it's not counting all that, but it's extremely hard, and not to mention, I mean, a lot of teams around here got done right at game 10, and we were fortunate enough to get to game 15. So November 1st is game 10, and then game 15 is December 13th. And so you're getting into later in the year, but I wouldn't trade it for a minute. But you have to work hard. But I think there's also some luck involved. You got to have the ball bounce your way, and you got to be able to play at the right times. And we love to start fast and finish. And this year we did a good job. Our seniors led us to the state championship. Unfortunately, we didn't win that. But I think as a coaching staff and as a team, we got the most out of each other this year. But to answer your question, you got to work really hard to get there.
Okay, so so all this time you have to players so what do you think about players and their bond between teammates? How is that important?
Yeah, I think it's really important. One of the things that we started here is we have everyone in weightlifting classes, and most of our team are in 2 classes. And so what the whole idea with that is that we want them to bond in those 2 classes in the weight room, and then we do summer workouts. It may be super crowded in here, but we have the entire team in here at one time sweating together, building sweat equity together. And I think that helps us bond. Sometimes we'll have, in years past, we had the offensive line go at one point and then the skilled guys go at another point. But I think it's key that we're all working out together, bonding. And this summer we're going to be doing some, not only summer workouts, not only trips together, but we're going to be doing some service projects in the community this summer. And I think that's going to bring us closer together as a team as well.
Okay, so you made it to the state championship this year. So what are the little things that you have to take to consideration to develop your team from this year to last year?
Yeah, no, I think I think the biggest thing for our guys right now is that, and I keep asking guys like Jaden Miles and Elijah Griffin, I say, hey, how many games have we won this year? And they answer me, we haven't won any. Because we haven't. I mean, what was done last year with Team 52, and that was 52nd team in Savannah Christian history, is nothing in comparison to what we hope Team 53 does. We had a great season this year, made it to the state championship, but I don't think our guys will be satisfied unless we make it back.
Okay, so what is one thing that you say that players have to have, what would you have to say that players have to impress coaches that are looking into one of your players?
Yeah, you talk in terms of like college coaches.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think. Well, first off, none of it matters unless you have the grades. You have to have a certain GPA to be a Division I football player, a certain GPA to be a Division II player, and a lot of players these days they're like Division I or bust. I just want to be D1. Well, you can't think like that, because D2 and D3 are some really good quality football programs, and they have good education at their colleges. So, but it all starts with the grades. You have to do well, and I tell my guys, just your best effort is all we're asking for. If your best effort is B's and C's, that's fine. If your best effort's in A's and B's, but your best effort is what we need. So it all starts first with the academics, and then secondly, they have to have a strong work ethic. I mean, these college coaches coming in, they're asking questions like, does he love football or does he live football? And they want to see these guys live football. And so it's a full-time job at the next level. I mean, heck, it's becoming a full-time job at the high school level. So, I mean, those are things. Got to have the grades, got to have the work ethic. And then, your upper Power 5 guys, they're looking at your height, they're looking at your weight. And if you don't have those, the right height they want, the right length that they want, the weight that they want in a certain position, you better have elite speed. Especially in today's world in the running backs, there's the transfer portal and everything that's going on right now. If you're not one of those guys that's 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", and you're playing running back, you better have elite speed.
Okay, so when your players, any player, when they go to the D2, D3, JUCO level and they're not satisfied, what would you have to say to when they're trying to go D1 or make it to the pro level? What would you have to say the work ethic has to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just you get where they're supposed to be, wherever the opportunity is, and they just perform their best, and look for opportunities that they have at that school. We had one player, it was a couple years ago, who was a really good running back here. His name was Marquell Brown, and he received a scholarship to Savannah State, and he did really well there, made all A's at Savannah State, but he just didn't want to be there anymore, and he felt like he should be playing a little bit more. And so guys coming through here all the time recruiting, and they're asking, hey, do you have anybody that may want to transfer? And he was one of those guys. He ended up going to Erskine, which I feel is a really good academic school. And he returned a kickoff this year for a touchdown for him, and he became a starter at Erskine, playing a lot more than he played at Savannah State. But, still, you just got to come to work every single day and take advantage of everything the college, your coaches, your teammates have to offer. And just be the best teammate that you can be.
So how does it make you feel when your players' success?
No, it makes me feel great. I mean, our guys here at Savannah Christian, they buy into what we're asking them to do. And I think one of the things that's made us so successful is we come up with a motto each season. Like this year, our overall program motto, we say, is attack with purpose. It comes from Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. It's working for the Lord. And I think our guys have really bought into that. And then this year we used one word. We used the word courage from 2 Timothy 1:7, and just letting our guys know that, like, if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, like he's going to help you get through that adversity, get through that fear. You're not going to erase fear, but you can overcome it through faith. And I think our guys, they buy into that, and we keep talking to our guys about that, and they buy into the aspect of being a team, we before me. And I think winning is a byproduct of those things, and I think that's why they've been successful.
And last question. So when I go to your football games, I see that y'all break off into groups and pray, and y'all let faith and the Jesus allow y'all to take you into the game and allow no harm. So how do you think that is important?
Yeah, I think that kind of piggyback on the answer I said just a minute ago is like if all we're doing as coaches is just coaching them to be great players and not to be good men down the road, good husbands, good fathers, and good men of faith, then we're missing the boat. We're not winning, because I know one day when I leave, when I pass away from this life, like Jesus is going to say, hey, you coached thousands of players, you've won a bunch of games, but how many of those guys did you tell about me? And I'm going to have to I'm going to have to answer that question, and that's the way I feel, and I think we've done a good job. And it's not me; like our entire coaching staff, I feel like are really good Christian men that are building these boys, and we just like we said, it's Savannah Christian. It's not for 4, it's not for 40, but it's for eternity. And so it plays a huge role, and I think our guys that when they leave our program, they're ready to attack college and ready to attack life with purpose. And but yeah, that's why we do it, and we want to continue to do it that way. So it has a big. But now in terms of like why they break off and pray with position groups, I don't ask them to do that. That's stuff that they do on their own. It's kind of just been a tradition. Like the linemen will go over there and they'll pray together. The linebackers will come over here and pray together, and they have that time together with their individual groups. They pray, and then they go into the locker room, and then we have the pregame speech, and then we back out and say the Lord's Prayer, and we're ready to tee it up after that.
And that was the last question. And thank you for tuning in for another episode of Spotlight with the Schumans. And thank you, Coach Woodward.
Thanks so much for having me.
For being on our show. And yeah, we out.